Greetings again. This is the lecture that I did last week, week 2 in our class, and we were talking about the actual structure of the persuasive essay. What I realized as I was talking to the class is that the class really preferred, yes, the textbook is extremely important, don't get me wrong about that, but when you look at the textbook, you realize they're talking a lot about the ideas behind writing, but not the actual writing itself, how to actually structure the essay. And so since it seemed like that's what people needed more of, I decided to design a huge lecture around that to guide you through this. Some of this, if you are more recently graduated from high school, some of this will sound familiar to you. For those of you who've been out of high school for a while, I will hopefully still sound familiar to you. But either way, whether you're in high school or early years of college or wherever you are, the initial structure, frankly, is the same. Okay, and then how you build on it from there is what really distinguishes high school from college. Okay, so taking a look at this lecture. College level persuasive writing is formal, and it's a complex extension of the 5-paragraph essay. So when I'm teaching you about the structure, I'm going to be talking a lot about the 5-paragraph essay, but realize that in a college level paper, you probably have a lot more than 5 paragraphs. Okay, but we are going to start with that basic structure and realize that what we're aiming for is just an expansion of that structure. The structure, of course, includes an introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion. And we'll talk about each of those in turn. Taking a look first at the introduction. An introduction always has 3 parts total. The first thing is going to be an attention grabber. This is the first sentence of your introduction, and the whole idea is that you're trying to make your audience want to read more. They want to know more. They can't get enough of it. Whatever you say there needs to be compelling enough to draw us in and keep us reading. Some things that you might use to do that might be things like asking a question, giving out surprising statistics. Something like, 4 years ago, the statistic of autism in births was 1 in 250, today it is 1 in 88. Or you might give an anecdote, tell me a funny story or a sad story. If you recall from the first week of class, when we read that piece about the mental hospital in Oregon, that piece started and finished with a story of a woman who'd actually lived in that institution, and everyone in the class agreed that was a big part of what made it a Pulitzer Prize winner, was that it was very effective in drawing us in and helping us make a personal connection to what we were writing. We might use famous quotes, we might use surprising or little known facts, things like that. But there's a way that you can use to draw us in. Whatever you use, though, needs to be related to the topic. So don't, tell me a funny joke like, why did the chicken cross the road? To get to the other side. Now that I have your attention, let me talk to you about the pros and cons of euthanasia. Some people actually have done that, and I would just tell you, make sure that your attention grabber is related. The next step is to summarize. Give me a few sentences that show a connection between your attention grabber and the point you intend to prove in your story. Set me up so I understand, why is this topic important to you? Why should I care about this topic? Why should anyone be interested in this topic? Okay, so now that you've grabbed my attention, you need to draw me in and help me understand there's a reason I need to care. Okay, and then finally, there's the thesis. And we're going to talk more about this, but basically, you need to know that the thesis is defined as the point you intend to prove in the paper. This is important because everything in the paper relates back to the thesis. Everything relates back to the thesis. If it doesn't support your thesis, it doesn't belong in the paper. The thesis is always the final sentence of your introduction. So that first paragraph of your paper, that final sentence should be one sentence. That is your thesis statement. The thesis is really important. We're going to talk more about that because it is the thesis statement that can provide a great deal of structure for your paper, making it a lot easier to actually write your paper. I'm a big fan of what I call the 3-point thesis. A 3-point thesis defines the argument and then the 3 reasons you have to support the argument, all in one sentence. Okay? So if you take a look, here's an example. Capital punishment should be illegal in all 50 states because of the incredibly high financial burden it creates, the possibility of killing an innocent person, and because capital punishment is unconstitutional. This first part of the sentence that is bolded here, and it should be bolded on your copy, this is the argument that I have defined. This is what I believe. And then, well, or what the writer believes. And then the parts that are underlined, 1, 2, and 3. These 3 parts are really important because they are the 3 reasons that I'm going to argue to support this. So remember I told you you had to have 3 body paragraphs in a 5-paragraph essay? Where would those 3 body paragraphs come from? 1, 2, and 3. Do you see what I'm saying? This is all about the organization. Okay, so I have that thesis, and then I know my first body paragraph is going to be about the high financial burden. My second body paragraph is going to be about the possibility of killing an innocent person. And my third body paragraph is going to be about how capital punishment is unconstitutional. And then that's going to set me up for my conclusion. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why a 3-point thesis is a great fit for leading yourself into the structure of a paper naturally. I want to warn you, when you're writing a 3-point thesis, please put the points you intend to argue in the order of weakest argument to strongest argument. Think about why that is for a second. You want to leave your reader at the end of the paper with the strongest possible argument imaginable, the thing that they will remember. If you don't go from weakest to strongest, you're going to find yourself struggling. So please make sure that you order these from your weakest argument to your strongest, and whatever order you put them in here, this should be the order that you discuss them in your paper. So if this is 1, 2, 3, then this better be body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, and body paragraph 3. Okay? Paragraph structure now. Now that you've established your introduction and your thesis and you know what the structure of your paper is going to be because you have that 3-point thesis, now we can take a look at paragraph structure. It is key to conveying a solid argument. I'm a big fan of what I call the MEAT formula. Or at the college level, for your paper, I'm looking for hopefully at least MEAT-EAT, or sometimes the MEAT-EAT formula. Okay? For each additional example you intend to discuss, you're going to add an EAT. Okay, what does MEAT stand for? MEAT is an acronym that stands for this. M stands for the main point. This would be the topic sentence of your paragraph. The point that leads me into what are you talking about in this paragraph. This should relate to one of your 3 main points. So for example, before, point number 1, capital punishment should be illegal because of the great financial strain it places on a state. What I just said, that's a topic sentence. I am now going to spend the rest of that paragraph proving that my topic sentence is true. I'm going to do that by providing an example, and that's the E in MEAT. I'm going to give you an example so that I can illustrate my main point. A, analysis. This is probably one of the most important parts of the MEAT formula that most people tend to forget about. A lot of people will say, this is my main point, and here's an example. And they expect you, the reader, to put A and B together. Indeed, you need to do that. I've had students who look at me and say, Mrs. Falk, I don't need to explain that. You know what I'm talking about. And I'll say, yes, I do. Do you know what you're talking about? Because see, that's what you're doing in the paper. You're not just convincing me. You're showing me you know what you're talking about. You know your topic. And you're informed, and therefore I should believe you. This speaks to your credibility, so it's really important. Analysis. In this sentence, you're explaining the connection or the importance of your example. Okay? So why use this example? How does your example support your main point, which in turn then supports your thesis, okay? So it's really important that you explain the importance of your example. in your piece. And then the T stands for transition or tie it up. If you're going in the meet-eat formula, meaning you're using at least 2 examples per paragraph, that means the first T is going to be a transition, transitioning to a new topic. Another example might be, or while this is one example, a better example might be, and then you're going on. So you're transitioning, you're using words that signal a shift in your thinking. If you're the final T though, if this is the end of the paragraph, then you're going to tie it up. And you're going to kind of bring that paragraph to a close. So here's an example of what a meet paragraph can actually look like. This is just meet. It is not meet-eat. Okay? But if you take a look at this paragraph, you can see that I have a main point. I offer an example, I analyze that example, and then I tie it up. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This slide is the exact same paragraph, but what I've done is I've gone through and I've bolded or underlined the different parts of the paragraph. So you can see up here, one reason homework should not be graded is because it is practice. That's my main point. Then down here I say if, for example, an athlete wants to perform well in a competition, she or he must attend practice and bring all skills to bear to work out any issues she or he may have prior to the competition, etc., etc. Through here, the bolded point up to where the underlining starts, I'm providing you with an example. Where the underlining starts, that's the analysis of the example. And I'm saying to you, here's one way to think about it, according to Marzano. Now I'm explaining to you why that's important. How does it apply to my main topic? Okay? And then I switched back down here to bold, and that is the tie it up. I'm bringing my paragraph to a conclusion. So this is what a basic meet paragraph can look like. Now, once each of your body paragraphs is going to be written in the meet-eat formula, so you want to have at least 2 paragraphs per, or 2 examples per paragraph, excuse me, okay? And then you're going to want to conclude your paper. The conclusion of a paper is actually very simple because it is just the introduction in reverse. So where your introduction was attention getter, summary, thesis, your conclusion is going to be a restatement of the thesis, pretty much as you said it the first time. It's going to be a review of the main points that you covered in your paper. So you just summarize, we talked about this, this, and this. And then your final closing thoughts. This is like your opportunity to have the last word in an argument, which is something that everybody wants and few people get. Okay? So it's a huge opportunity. Take advantage of that. What final sucker punch can you leave that argument with that is going to drive your point home? Sometimes referring back to your attention getter can be helpful. Okay, so that's what the structure of the paper looks like. And then in class, we also took time to look at some mentor texts. This coming week, my goal for you is to spend a lot of time looking at the specifics of the structure of a persuasive essay, and we're going to be spending more time doing that. If you're interested, please join us. If you're not, I'm going to attempt to record more videos. I hope this worked for you. But I'm going to attempt to record more videos with mini lessons discussing the same topics that we will be addressing in class this week, including research and documentation, planning your writing, things like that. So hopefully those things will be helpful to you. I want to remind you that your first paper is actually due final draft at 6 p.m. on Wednesday, February 6th. I prefer that you send that to me via email attachment on a Word document. Okay, so Microsoft Word, send it to my email, my work email, wendy.fulk@oshkosh.k12.wi.us. Please send it to that address as an attachment. And make sure that you're writing an APA style. Make sure that you are writing an argumentative paper that follows this structure, and the rubric is posted on Blackboard as well. And then make sure that you follow APA style. You should be good to go. If you have any questions, again, please use Blackboard under week 2 questions, or feel free to email me. Best chance is always to get me at my work email again. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.